How are you doing today? Hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing super swell. I don't really have a plan for this video. I do, but I don't. Um, I got something recently and I'm nervous about it, so I kind of wanted to talk about it because I've talked about it before. But I got my book in, a copy of my book, this week, and I am so nervous about its existence in the world. I wrote it last year during I wrote it last year, in September, and so through this whole process, I think because I never really thought about it actually the process has been so long that I didn't really sit down and take time to really think about what would happen after, you know, it materialized into the physical, like the actual book. And I don't know, I just sat there and I was staring at it, and I wanted to throw up. And I know that sounds so funny to say because, like, well, you had to have known. It's like I did when I first wrote it. Um, it took me a long time to even it took me a long time to even write it. And I don't know why, but there was like this constant nagging of like, just at least face it. Just sit down and face it and face your story. The story I had buried, I had, completely, ignored because I thought burying it or ignoring it or pretending like it didn't happen, um, even though I knew it happened, but pretending like, it didn't was making me stronger, and I thought that in order to really overcome, the beliefs and the ideologies that were placed on me from, you know, parentals. I thought I needed to be strong in order to overcome that. I needed to really become this person who was hard and didn't take crap from no one. Now, I have really never been like that, I'm not gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna be honest with you, that's wild to say. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never really been that person. I think it's really hard for me to be that person, and I think that's why a lot of people are like, "Oh, you really should you really should be, meaner, and you really should, you know, show up differently." I guess mean. I guess that's the only way you could say it is, show up and don't take no crap. But, I mean, you can be like that without having to be, um, I don't know, hard, you know? I don't wanna be hard. I wanna be myself, and who I am to my core is somebody who's just, soft with boundaries. I just wanna say, "I'm not gonna take that," and walk away instead of, "I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna fight with you. I'm not gonna" you know, "I don't like that behavior." Okay, I don't have the energy to put into a situation that is not beneficial for my growth, for who I am. And so I want to be soft, I want to be delicate, I want to be gentle. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to have to prove that I'm right. I don't care. I don't care if I'm right. I don't care, you know? I mean, obviously, when it comes to, knowledge and, but when it comes to my convictions and what I stand for internally, I don't I don't care if you're trying to prove me wrong. It's my beliefs. They're mine, and I'm gonna keep them. But I kind of went off the rails a little bit. I don't really know where I was talking about. I'll watch this later and then I'll be like, "Oh, that's what I was talking." But I don't wanna be hard. I wanna be soft. I don't wanna show up soft. And I want to be compassionate and understanding, but have boundaries and, you know, realize that even if I was living in unawareness, I can take accountability for my actions, because, we even if you're unaware, you still have to take accountability for your choices, how you just what we have to do. It's our responsibility as humans to become aware, be honest with ourselves, sit with ourselves, and just talk with ourselves. Be gentle with ourselves. Not really, you don't have to be gentle, but you could just talk to yourself, be honest with yourself. You don't have to do it gently, you could be all like, "Look here, brain, I don't like the way you're handling this situation. Let's do this another way. Let's do this a different way. Let's figure out a different path." Anyways, I got off track. I do that a lot. I got my book in, and when I first wrote it, I, obviously didn't want to I felt compelled to write it. Just write it, not to put it out. And so I sat there and I wrote it, and I cried for months. It feels like months, and then I finally finished it, and then it was this feeling of, you just throw it out there, just, maybe somebody else needs to hear it, maybe somebody else needs to, know they're not alone, maybe somebody else is wanting to see from a different perspective. They went through something similar because I'm not the only one, um, who's been through this. I think it's one of those situations. It's a story about me going through, um, obviously child abuse. I won't say obviously child abuse. I don't really talk about it in depth, but I was abused for years by a family member, and it was really hard for me during as a child. And the book really looks from my perspective, obviously, but then the the understanding of why decisions were made, why somebody could make a decision, and how that led to the suffering of children. And I think that is important because it's not just about the suffering that or the pain or the trauma. It's understanding why someone can do that. And understanding isn't for them. I'm not trying to take accountability away from them or responsibility away from them. Like you know, that's them. Understanding is for myself. Um, to really give myself a chance to live in this world and not blindly go through it and say that, oh, people are just monsters. People do things because they don't understand how they work. That doesn't remove their responsibility or their accountability, but I can understand that people react from their wounds, from their fears, from what they were taught, and that understanding and that awareness that I have for others helps me move through this world and keeps me intact with my own humanity because I can understand where they're coming from. I choose not to act like that. I can understand that they lived in this state of survival, but I don't need to also live in that state. I can choose differently. I have the choice to choose differently. So, when I wrote the book, I really I really struggled with putting that out there because I I think one half was I don't want people to think that I sympathize with people who harm other people or especially children. It's something I struggled with because a lot of it is, it wasn't up until I was in my 30s that I finally broke away from that family dynamic. Now, this abuse happened when I was a child. Um, it didn't continue on and obviously into my adulthood years, but I think because I do consider my family a little cult-like, but really funny. To me, but because I was still learning and still acknowledging and still coming into my own awareness, into my own self. There was a lot of things that I didn't tolerate from my family. I won't say tolerate, but there was a lot of things that, I would push back on my family about, like, you know, really anything that when it came to humanity reasons and we didn't align and where I was like, "Oh, you can believe this, but also see this as wrong. You can believe this and also see, like, maybe this route should have been taken." Um, but I think my issues really was tied to, you know, not feeling safe as a child, not feeling loved as a child, not feeling seen, feeling unworthy, feeling, undeserving. I really believed that my life was meant for pain and punishment. That is a really weird belief to have too. Now that I see it, it's so interesting, and I believed that the only way that I would be able to finally get peace was really to get the love, finally, like, actually be loved and be accepted and, waiting for acknowledgement from my parents that, your life is meant for more. And there's no competition between a child and their parents. And so I I struggled with putting this book out. I really did. I know I keep going back to this. I feel like I keep getting off track, but I finally got to the place where I was okay with, my what I wanted is for someone in the world to also not feel like they're alone because I'm not the only one. And my book isn't just about putting more pain into the world. There's this I mean, it's obviously got painful moments and it does, there's moments where it's I feel like I should have added a trigger warning. But I want people to know that they don't have to feel alone and you can it's not I'm not gonna say like, "Oh, it's easy," but you can make it. You can give yourself the love that you always felt like you deserved and you are searching for externally. The gentleness, the compassion, the understanding, the validation. It can it can happen and it all starts from internal and it doesn't need to you don't have to keep fighting for something that no one else can give you but you. And I think also another thing is something that I want to really advocate for is how do we stop and I don't think I really touched on this in my book, but how do we really stop people from harming others and children? Um, and I think that a deeper conversation of you don't have to you're not the thoughts that are in your mind. You are not what you were taught. You are not what you were shown. You have a choice to choose better, and it is up to you to make those choices to choose better. You don't have to hurt someone. You don't have to harm somebody. I feel like that is common knowledge. But I think the thing is just acknowledge yourself. Exist with yourself, be with yourself, see yourself in all of your honesty, even if it's hard to hear, even if it's hard to see. Just sit with yourself in honesty and allow yourself to exist with your pain, exist with your beliefs, and really see them and acknowledge them and hear them because they just want to be heard. They want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. They want you to know that they are there and that you can make a different choice. You do not have to continue with any generational trauma or teachings or beliefs or ideologies. I think I won't go there, but I don't know. My brain. Um, so anyway, yeah, I put this book out finally. It finally went out into the world. Um, I sent it to like 6 different places and or maybe 4, 5 or 4, 6 maybe. I don't really remember. But I did send it out and then, obviously the first person who was like, "Yeah," I'm like, "Okay, I just, this is this is a story that I wanna say is I felt compelled to share. I I'm not gonna say that I have high expectations. I feel like that's terrible to say, but I was just it's really something that I just wanted to share and help anyone who may have went through similar things because I know this is a very sensitive topic. At least for me it is. I can't say for anyone else. I think that anyone who goes through child abuse that is from anyone is terrible and then obviously you add the layer of family abuse on top of that that is of the variety that I don't know, I think there's obviously a lot of jokes around it and people will say things and it's that shame and that guilt of putting something out there where people can see you, and you just have to say, I was a kid, I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that life. I wanted to, play in the mud, go swim in ditches, I didn't go collect crawdads or turtles, which I did do that. I did do that. I just, behind closed doors, that's not what happened. So, obviously, because I don't live in a river in my house. I don't know what's wrong with me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I blinked again. I'm blanking. I kind of said something that was just like my brain was like, "Well, of course, you don't live in you weren't gonna catch, you're not gonna go fishing in your house. You could if you live in the, you know, outdoors. If you lived in a cabin, I guess, you know? I don't know. Um, but no one asks for that. No one asks to nobody, no kid, especially no kid. It's just I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about kids who endure, and this is from my own personal experience. I can't speak for anyone else, but I think I've seen and I've heard people say say things, and I think I've been on a side of the internet where it's a very interesting take because people say some really interesting things. I know I say the word interesting a lot, but interesting things, and kids are aware when bad things are happening. There is that awareness, and, um, I think kids deserve a lot more credit for understanding life, and I'm not gonna say that, it's always like that, but there's an understanding, I think, at least from my perspective. I don't think we should hurt kids. I just don't think that. I just don't. I don't. I can't agree with anybody who then you're like, "Who would think that?" Well, there's some people on the internet that's out there in the ether, the wrong side of the ether, I think, personally. Um, but anyways, that is really what I wanted to say is my book a copy of my book showed up, and I wanted to throw up, and I'm scared, and I'm nervous, and, I don't know how I feel about it existing in the real world, um, but it is here, and I have a copy of it. Obviously, it's the copy they sent me, but, look at it, it's so cute. Between the ashes and the end, I put my name on it. Mm. It's not my name, but I like that name as my World of Warcraft character, and I don't know, that name really resonated with me, so I kept it. I really like that name. It's just it's like one of those names you're just like, "Oh, I really wish that was my name." I don't know why. But I do wanna read just the first passage that I wrote for the book that kind of because it's for each chapter or just any, like, major, break in the book, I put these little passages that were about the light and the dark, and I put them in the book, and I wanna read the first one to you. I don't know. I just want to. So I'm gonna do that, and then after that, I'm gonna leave it here because I feel like this made no sense, and that's okay because not everything makes sense. Only to yourself, right? It only makes sense to me, and that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna read this as I stare at you awkwardly. I'm not gonna stare at you anymore. Okay. Within her womb, she carried the light, and soon she blossomed, and the light was born into darkness. The darkness held the light. The only thing the light knew was how peaceful the night was. Years went by, and the light grew, and every passing day was like a grain of sand piling on the light, smothering any chance for it to shine. The light, now dimmed by its mountain of shame, was unable to light the way for others. The darkness knew how the darkness knew it could no longer hold the light. The light needed to find its way back. The darkness left so it could finally shine. Ugh. The darkness left so it could finally shine. Through the fear, doubt, and unworthiness, the light began to flicker brighter until one day it would illuminate the world. And that is my passage from the beginning passage, my book, Between the Ashes and the End. And I'm proud of myself that I finally got to this place. I'm proud of myself that I finally saw my own worth and I decided to fight for myself. I waged an internal war to show myself that I was worth fighting for, showing up for, and that I deserved a life that wasn't feared, living in fear or in doubt or in shame, guilt. I love life. and I've always loved life, and I love living, I love breathing, I love everything about life. Um, it is one of those things that I'm very happy that I'm here. I'm very grateful that I got to experience even this moment. And it sounds crazy, but it is so true. I've always had this wonderment about life. Even as a kid, it was just, this is who I am. It was who I was meant to be, happy, loving life. And it didn't start off great. It didn't start off wonderful. And despite all of that I went through, I finally showed up for myself. I finally got here and I am so proud of myself. And if I can make any difference in the world where people don't feel shame, guilt, or even helping people to realize that they don't have to, and I mean, they know they don't have to hurt other people, but you don't have to be your story. You don't have to be your past. You can change it. You can become the better version of the trauma you endured. And you can show your family and your friends or whoever that you were strong enough to change it. And that I'm gonna leave that there. And on that note, I hope you have the greatest rest of your day, and I hope your mind is kind to you today. And that's all I have to say. Okay. Bye.